Hello there and welcome to another episode of The Big Q. Today we are taking a different turn. We are looking into a life story of one Marry NJAMBI, who is a media personality but also an endo warrior. Since she was 13, NJAMBI has been undergoing a series of surgeries and complications after she was diagnosed with this rare medical condition. But today she is alive and here to tell us more on this condition. NJAMBI, thank you very much for making time to be with us and welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome to Rwanda.
Thank you. Is this the part where I say Urakoze Chane?
Urakoze Chane, yes.
All right, there you go. And I said it with the proper accent.
See?
There you go.
NJAMBI, yes. You know, I've just given just a small debrief of who you are, but I haven't explained, you know, to our viewers who really NJAMBI. So who is NJAMBI? Let's start from there.
Okay, first of all, you call me by my government names, but I come from Kenya and I'm a media personality. I've worked in both radio and TV, and I also do reggae. I'm an MC with the reggae concerts, and I'm also in the reggae scene back at home. And I'm an endometriosis survivor. And and most people know me as Njambi Koikai. So I've been battling this condition for 21 years. I've been very sick ever since I started my period at the age of 13. I have never known a painless period. I've always had extremely crazy, painful periods. But once that started and it happened, you know, our mothers, our African mothers always sit us down when our periods start and they give us the talk and they tell us stay away from boys, you know, take care of yourself, yes. You know, this is what you do at certain times. And so, but nobody ever sat me down to explain about this pain, this period pain that would actually cripple me. I wouldn't go to school, I would not be able to eat, I would not be able to walk, wow. I would not be able to do anything. And I was raised by my grandmother and my mother. So both of them would tell me, when you get children, the pain will go away. But as the years went on, the pain became worse and worse and worse. And every
no form of medication helped?
And no form of medication helped me. Gynecologists tried to give me birth control to suppress the hormones and to suppress the pain, but it wouldn't go away. Tried painkillers, I tried injections, it wouldn't go away. And so as the years went by, the pain got worse and worse and worse. And in 2015, I was working on radio. And I remember going up the stairs and I felt a sharp pain in my chest, and it was so painful that I wasn't able to go up the stairs. And I started having a weird dry cough, but I didn't know what it was. So it got worse within a few days, and my mother decided to take me to hospital, and we went to hospital, and the doctor did an X-ray, and he said that I had a collapsed lung. So, you know, so the doctor asked me whether I had been in an accident, and I said no. Was I in a fight and probably somebody stabbed me? I said no. So we didn't really understand what that was and where that came from. But the doctor said that I needed a surgery so that they could be able to inflate the lung to suck out the water and the excessive air that had made the lung to collapse. So I went for the first surgery, it was done, and the lung expanded, and we thought that was it. And then after 3 weeks, the same thing happened. So we went back to the doctor again, did the same thing, and we went back home. And then after a month, it happened again. And this time it was a bit crazy because now it was getting worse, and we didn't know what this problem was. And so it went on for a while, and I went through about 18 surgeries before I really found out what the problem was. And I finally found a gynecologist back home in Kenya who told me what the problem was. He told me that I had thoracic endometriosis. Now, what endometriosis is, basically, it's cells similar to the endometrium, which is the lining in the uterus. There are cells similar to that grow outside of the uterus. Unfortunately, now, those cells are what cause the painful periods. You find women who have painful periods, they have something called dysmenorrhea, pain with intercourse. They have loose bowels when, you know, during that time of the month, backache, they're not able to walk, the joints are paining. Sometimes it even affects the jaws. So those cells moved all the way to my lungs.
Wow.
So what happens is when I am on my period, or when I was on my period, now those cells would bleed into my lungs, especially the right lung. And that would make my lungs to collapse.
Crazy.
And that is how I got diagnosed with thoracic endometriosis. So when I saw this doctor, he said to me, unfortunately, there's nobody in Africa who can help you. There's no doctor who can treat you. So you have to leave the country and seek specialized treatment. And so I went online, searched and searched for doctors, and I finally found doctors in the US, in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Center for Endometriosis Care. And that was Dr. Ken Sinavo and Dr. John Goldman, who are some of the leading gynecologists in America who are actually treating endometriosis. That is their work. They just deal with endometriosis and thoracic endometriosis. This disease is not rare. It's not rare. This is what I'd like to say. It is not rare. It is just underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed.
Misdiagnosed.
The statistics are 1 in 10 women are suffering from endometriosis.
1 in 10.
In RBA, count 1 to 10.
Wow.
1 in 10 women. So that's over 200 million women worldwide. But the problem in Africa is that we're not funding research for endometriosis. Our doctors are not being trained. Women do not have access to quality health care. So, and then our cultures also inhibit us because we're not empowered enough to speak out about menstruation-related health diseases. So because when we have these issues, when it comes to menstruation, we're always told, you know, those are women, those are female things, those are...
We don't know about it.
Yeah, those are women's things. You guys deal with it, you know. But we need to change, and we need to have an approach where we give women safe spaces to speak about these issues. Because remember, these are mothers who are going through this disease. These are young girls. These are the girlfriends. These are the wives. These are the sisters. So we need to speak out against it. And I'm very happy to be here and to be in Rwanda. I was called for the Timeless Women's Conference to speak about it, and you know, I'm very grateful to have had this opportunity to be here at RBA to speak about endometriosis, because I went to America, and after having gone through 18 surgeries back home, I was so critical. I went through 3 more surgeries in America, and I stayed in America for close to 2 years as I was receiving treatment. I actually went home last year. Yeah, so I'm still on recovery. The medication is expensive because it's not available back home. Neither is it available anywhere in Africa. So I have to send for it in America. And I'm thinking, I am privileged enough to get the medication. How about
those who do not?
Those women here, women in Rwanda, for example. Excuse me, women in rural Rwanda, you know, women in Kenya, women in Sudan, you know, women in Somalia. What are we going to do? And how can these women even access the information to know that what they're suffering from is not normal?
It's not.
It's not normal. Period pain is not normal. And how can we teach these women to speak up and say, hey, I have a problem with menstruation, my menses are painful, without shame, without being stigmatized, and without doctors having to keep on telling these women that the pain is in their head. Because that's what most doctors do, especially when you're a chronic, you know, when you have chronic pain and you tend to go to the hospital most times and the doctors don't really know what to do with you. They make you feel like, you know, it's psychological. But it's not. You have a problem and we need to speak up and we need help.
So Njambi, after taking us through your journey, maybe the most question that comes into my head is like, so what are the signs?
Signs and symptoms, of course, first of all, painful periods. Painful periods that would make you not come to work, not go to school. Pain for the sexually active, pain with intercourse, bowel movement. You have an irritable bowel movement, vomiting, diarrhea, back pain, joint aches. It's a whole mix-up. And I'm sure there are women who experience that, like I said, 1 in 10 women, and they need to get checked. They need to get checked. Yes.
Hey, so let's talk about the misdiagnosis that happens, you know, across Africa, not only in Kenya, you know. Where do you think we go wrong? Is it that our health systems are not strong enough? You've said we do not have research. Where do we go wrong, basically?
I think, first of all, we need to understand that our genetic makeup is very strong as Africans, and we need to fund research for African health care. Because this is a very interesting thing I came to learn about endometriosis. And in the studies of endometriosis, and what they were teaching before, they never used to teach African students about endometriosis because they used to say that endometriosis does not affect African women. And this is because in the years before, African women used to give birth to 7 to 10 children. But we know of our aunties, we know of our mothers, we know of our grandmothers who were never blessed with children. And where we come from, as Africans, we say those women were cursed. But it's not a curse. They actually had a problem. And most likely they had endometriosis because one of the signs of endometriosis is that it leads to infertility. So, but most of the times when we're growing up, we would be told, oh, that grandmother, she doesn't get children, she was cursed. That auntie, she never got children, she was cursed. So I think we first of all need to fund research and prioritize women's health care, because a productive nation, a healthy nation is a productive nation. And the fact that, women are the majority in Africa, our health should be given priority and it should be taken seriously. And, just improve the quality of healthcare and train more doctors. That way we will be able to treat this disease. And the gold standard of treatment, there's no cure for this disease, but the gold standard of treatment is a surgery known as excision, where they cut out the disease. And it's only carried out by very skilled doctors, like the ones where I mentioned in America, Dr. Ken Sinavo and Dr. John Goldman at the Center for Endometriosis Care. They are very skilled gynecologists, and they are dedicated to endometriosis alone. So we need to create centers of excellence for gynecologists here who carry out those that surgery, excision surgery, and it's very expensive.
Jamie, like you've said, culture is a big barrier to this, because I believe we still do not have women who speak up.
No.
We still have women who, when have the periods, actually move from their own beds to their husbands and prefer to move. What would you say about this? How do we empower women? It's 2020, but we still have these cases. How do we empower them to ensure, I'm not feeling it, take me to the hospital, or, push the doctor, think outside the box. How do we see this happen?
We need to go to the grassroots level. We need to push and push and push and make noise as much as we can. And we need to fight for these women's voices to be heard. First of all, we need to be raising awareness in school. Because girls start menstruating when they're in school. So we need to include that, in the curriculum, and teach girls about menstrual health and teach them about the related illnesses that come with menstruation, so that when it happens, they're not afraid. When I started menstruating, I was 13 years old. I had just gone into high school. I was not aware. I had no clue. And a lot of times when I was in pain, people used to think I would make it up, because we would be standing in assembly and I would faint because of the pain. And people thought I made it up. It's not until I fell sick when my lungs started collapsing and I was sharing my journey on Instagram and I was fundraising in Kenya. Everybody in Kenya knows about my story. It's not until then people started seeing how serious this was, and they were like, oh my goodness, Njambi, this is what you've been suffering from. Oh my God. I know someone, I know a sister, my mother, my cousin, So we need to push, and we also need to make women feel comfortable about sharing their stories, not to shame them, because there's a lot of shame associated with menstruation. It's not a dirty thing. It's just a biological function. God created us like this, but unfortunately for some women, it's hell on earth. It's a lot of pain for some women, and so they kind of feel like, they can't talk about it. But it's normal, and they're not alone. We're 200 million women all worldwide who are, who are going through it. So I believe, creating those safe spaces and making women feel comfortable with sharing their stories and being more empathetic towards them, and just normalizing it. Normalizing that, hey, what you're going through, is actually normal.
It's normal. It's something that happens to everyone.
It's what you're going through is, you know, we legitimize it and not having to shame and stigmatize people. That way, then a woman will feel like, okay, if so-and-so can go through that, I can also come out and share my story.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, we do take a short break, but when we come back, of course, we're still talking to Marry NJAMBI, and she will be telling us at least what you and I can do to help raise awareness to endometriosis. So to keep it to the big Q. Welcome back, and thank you very much for keeping it the big Q. We're still talking to an endo warrior who's married, and she says it is not a death sentence.
No.
So before we went for a short break, NJAMBI, we were talking about how to break the cultural, you know, and how, you know, women can stay strong despite everything. But then it comes to my head, how have you made it? Because psychologically, emotionally, financially, it's not an easy journey.
It's not.
How have you made it this far?
First of all, I credit God. I say God gave me the strength. And I believe God can never give you anything you can't handle. And God gave me a very strong grandmother who passed away, unfortunately, in 2016. We were in this journey together. When I started falling sick, she also had pancreatic cancer. And I say, God rest her soul in peace. She gave me a lot of strength. That woman, she raised me good and proper. And my mother. So I'm surrounded by very strong women. And my younger sister, who has also been a very, very strong pillar in my life. And so when this happened, when now it was determined that I needed to leave the country and seek specialized treatment abroad, they all came in and they were like, we're here for you. Whatever is going to happen, we're here as your mother and sister, and we got you till the end. And also, our nation, our country, that's Kenya. The Kenyan people have been really, really supportive of my journey. They really love me, and I love my people. I love my country very much. Because when I called for help, people really came. And even Rwanda as well. I have a lot of Rwandese friends that I grew up with back home in Nairobi. They also came through big time, and they've been very, very supportive because where we live, there's a huge Rwandese community, and a lot of people think that I'm Rwandese actually. So, you know, I don't know, I look like a Kayetesi, right? But yeah, so we have that connection, and a lot of people really came through, and people, you know, my story went all over. Viral. And a lot of people came through. So I have a very huge, you know, support system. And I'm very, very grateful. And I do believe my story, you know, all these things happened to me so that we can effect change and be able to help women who are suffering in silence. And I am so grateful from the bottom of my heart. Very, very grateful. Very grateful.
NJAMBI, if you're to change the healthcare today, the healthcare system, not only in Kenya, not only in Rwanda, but also continentally, let's start from home, you know, Africa.
Yeah.
What would you change? What would you make different?
First of all, what would I make different is I would invest more in doctors' training. Yeah, because what I have experienced and what I have felt is that our governments are really not investing or prioritizing training of doctors. Because as years go on and as times change, our bodies are also mutating. Remember that the diseases that we're dealing with right now, we never dealt with 50 years ago. So doctors need to be trained as time goes on, and you know, we need to invest a lot. We need to invest in research a lot. And also, let's invest in research according to our genetics. Yeah, because, you see, even when I went for specialized treatment, I'm not being treated according to my genes, you know? Sometimes my genes may reject some type of medication, or they may reject some type of treatment, but I believe as Africans, we have the solutions right here in our land, because first of all, we can be able to deal with some diseases through our food, through our herbs, you know, that we grow from the soil, without having to spray chemicals on them, just naturally. We can be able to do that. So those are some of the things I would be able to do if I was in the power to, you know, implement some of these things.
I know during, you know, your surgery, during this journey, in your ways of trying to create awareness, you even wrote to Ellen.
Yes, I did. I'm still waiting for her to respond to me. Hi, Ellen, if you're watching RwandaTV, I still hope that, you know, it will be such a great platform. I was in such a desperate space. I went to America without insurance, without health insurance. It is so expensive, very expensive, way out of reach, even for Americans themselves. So you can imagine me, a young girl coming all the way from Kenya with no knowledge of America and without the knowledge of, you know, I didn't know anything. So I just went just like that with the money we had fundraised back home. It was so expensive. And you know, we had planned, or we thought that I would be in America for maybe a month and I go back home, but I got complications after the surgery, the first surgery, and I stayed in intensive care for 40 days. And the doctors decided that I was not fit to go back home yet, so I was put under treatment for 1.5 years. And even within that 1.5 years, I also went through 3 other surgeries, so it was expensive, so expensive. The medication, you can't even think about it. It's out of this world. But I say, God always does things in very mysterious ways that we'll never understand. Yeah, I never understood any of this. I was at a point in my life where my career was just soaring. You know, I was on TV, I was on radio, I was doing all of these things, and then all of a sudden this happens. But there's a purpose to it, and there's a reason for it. And I'm very positive, and I'm also very strong mentally. But there was a point where I got a bit shaky, because I was like, no, surely, what is this? Why do I have to go through this all the time, you know? But I don't feel sorry for myself. I take it head on, you know? So it was not easy, but I believe we can effect that change, and women don't have to go through what I've gone through. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what role can I play? What role are those watching, you know, us on TV? What role can they play to ensure, you know, that we are making noise, that endometriosis is known, and that, you know, just empowering one another in one way or another?
We start by speaking up. We start by having conversations like this. You know, you've invited me here. Now we're talking about it. Let's have a conversation in Rwanda. Let's have conversations in schools in Rwanda where young girls can say, I have period pain. Is this normal? Yeah. I have extreme period pain. I'm not able to go to school. And there's a myth, actually. It's not even a myth, but there's this narrative that is always pushed that girls are missing school because of sanitary towels. That's just one of the reasons. The major reason is pain. Because if my back is paining to a point where I'm not even able to stand up, I can't go to school. You know, if I'm having loose bowels, you know, if I have a heavy flow that I have to be close to a bathroom at all times, I'm not able to do anything. I can't move. So we start by having those conversations. And in turn, you know, the people, you know, the people in power will listen. You know, the Ministry of Health will hear. And in that way, they will also be able to effect some form of change through policy. They will fund research and, you know, just things like that. And you'll start seeing the change being effected in very many ways. But let's start having those conversations. Let's talk right here on RwandaTV, have those conversations on radio, in schools, in unis, in church. You know, people don't speak about these things in church.
That's true.
Yeah, because church is very conservative, and African church is very conservative, because those are things that women deal with in private, and menstruation is dirty, but it's not a dirty thing.
It's not.
Menstruation is necessary for reproduction. Menstruation is the reason we're here today, you know, because God created it. And he made sure that the woman was created that way for a reason. So we have to talk about it, because if menstruation is that necessary, then why are the women suffering? Why are they in pain? What can we do to alleviate that pain? So we need to have those conversations in church, in the mosques, everywhere. And also include the men.
Of course.
Yeah. We come from very conservative societies, but we talk about it. I come from one of the most conservative peoples. I'm part Maasai, so you can imagine trying to even start a conversation about menstruation is hard, but we have to talk about it. And me speaking out, me coming out has given a lot of women so much courage to come out and say, I go through the same thing. So there's a conversation that's going on in Kenya, and I hope that that conversation will start in Rwanda and other parts of Africa so that we can be able to get help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This last surgery you had in Njambi, how successful was it? Is there an end to this? You know, one could wonder.
I think it was the most successful surgery I've ever done. I went, and I just wish that it was done earlier, and I wish that I had gotten a diagnosis earlier, because I would have been treated earlier, and a lot of damage that was done to my right lung would have been, you know, alleviated. But unfortunately, I went through all those surgeries, and a lot of damage was done to my lung before I got specialized treatment. And so it was a bit difficult for the doctors in the US to treat me because of, first of all, they had to deal with the damage that was caused, and then now deal with the disease. So it was very, very rough and very hard. But I'm grateful. I'm doing really well. I've added some weight. When I was leaving Kenya, I was 36 kilograms. I was gone. You know, I was very tiny. So, and I couldn't do anything. So I'm doing really well. As you can see, I'm here in Rwanda. So that's a huge milestone for me to even hop on a plane from Nairobi to here. It's such a blessing, and I'm grateful. So, but I'm on treatment and I'm on medication for a few years to come. Yeah.
Before we wind up, maybe those who are watching us, Njambi, this is your camera, what would you tell the women, probably who still feel shy or say, it's just a myth, you know, I don't want to, no, I can't go through what she went through. I believe, you know, Panadol will help. It's your camera, what would you tell them?
All right, I'd like to say that period pain is not normal. And when you feel those pains, please go and see a gynecologist. And if you feel that your gynecologist is not doing enough, always seek a second opinion. And an informed patient is an empowered patient. So get on Google, learn about these things, learn about this disease, check. There's a whole community online. You can always follow me on my social media pages, and you can have, you can acquire more information about this disease that will help you to be the best advocate for yourself, and you will be able to educate others. And to the gynecologists and to the doctors, do not ignore the cries of women, especially when they come to see you with symptoms of period pain. Read about endometriosis, understand the disease, and also go further to help alleviate the pain. And yeah, just if I would call for improvement in the healthcare system, it would be to ask gynecologists to just seek further training in regards to treating endometriosis. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Njambi, for making time to be with us. And of course, good luck, Godspeed.
Thank you.
Keep rocking.
I will. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on RwandaTV. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Yes,
well, of course, I've been talking to Njambi. She is an endo warrior, but also a media personality who says despite her pain, despite her challenges, she's here to talk about it and tell the world that you will live, but seek the opinion of a doctor. And to the doctors out there, get trained. You know, do not shy away from the small matters that we think only lives abroad, you know, to the Europeans. It's an African matter. Let's talk about it. Let's find solutions to this. Otherwise, do keep it the big Q. My name is Fiona Mbabazi.